How are you doing? I'm sorry to throw me off the airport. Yes, yes. Long time ago, far away. That's why I'm yeah, I don't like originally.
You might have, if you had a chance to eat it.
I just go to
So you start that down.
There's a few there that's great. Okay. Oh, that's yours. That chair is easier for you to handle. You're going to use that one. I don't know so I'm going to be starting with and then we know I brought it all into
Let's try this thing now. We can try it You can walk around.
Oh, yeah. That was college. Good, nice. Yeah, he's working for that outfit that makes those things now, logging company. And I walked by the head of the AADSOs.
What do you think? It's on this end. It's up to 90%.
It's there.
Okay. And then if you do.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Well, when Trump was speaking yesterday, he was stronger.
You remind me now.
Yeah, okay, well, yeah,
Never give a sucker any break with smart enough to Trump. That's right. I was voting WCP on that day. Is this a game of chance? Not the way I play
Happy New Year, rascals and guests. Very good. Welcome to the first monthly meeting of the Victoria Center of RESC for 2019. And it started off great with Ultima Thule's flyby, and things are going to continue to improve from there. My name is Reg Dunkley. I'm the fledgling president of the organization, so you have to bear with me. I'm still in a shakedown mode here. So tonight's program is we're going to have announcements, upcoming events, and our guest speaker who traveled 4 time zones to get here today and just barely made it. It was a heroic effort on his part. Paul Gray came from Halifax, and I expect when I introduce him to almost have a standing ovation. Okay, so we'll have the talk, and after that we're going to go up to the 4th floor of the Elliott Building for coffee, tea, and cookies, and have a conversation. And we might even be able to get a bit of one-on-one with our 4 jet-lag presenter. So that's what's going on tonight. But first of all, Paul here is a guest. He is interested, so welcome aboard. Is there any other new members or new attendees tonight? Well, welcome.
Hi, I'm David.
I've seen you around before, Neil, so I think. So Well, welcome, and I hope we'll talk to you after the program's over tonight. So we have announcements, and as president, a couple of things that has happened is that we were very fortunate that we had a very generous donation from the estate. A person donated a 20-inch Obsession F5 telescope. And on December 5th, Sid, John McDonald and I tried to fit it into the storage room up at the VCO. And we have a little bit of a space problem there. So this is the existing telescope. And this is a scope that was built by Guy Walton in 2003. The mirror on it is a mirror from Jack Newton's 20-inch telescope. And it was the first time that I'd seen it in the daylight. It's always been rolled out in the dark. And I didn't realize what a beautiful piece of workmanship he made here. And so one option we were thinking of is we can't hold two 20-inch Dobsonians in our storage shed at the VCO, is possibly to reposition one of the scopes in the center of the universe and roll it out onto the patio there for outreach in the summer. And it so happens that that was the original resting place for this telescope many years ago. So it might get back to its own home base. But right now we kind of got a bit of a mess there. And if it interferes with your nighttime viewing, blame me, because it's all my fault. But we're working at getting a new home, and hopefully we'll have an announcement pretty soon. So, and the other thing, oh yes, we signed a new 5-year agreement for with the NRC to stay at the VCO, and we've got our insurance all squared out and everything like that, so that is important. And the vice president, the acting vice president, will introduce the speaker a little later. Our Sky News editor Bruce is not here tonight, but he came out with a real nice blockbuster issue, the 404th issue of Sky News. It has a lovely interview with Laurie Roche, but it also has a lot of tips on how to photograph the upcoming lunar eclipse and things like that. He did an excellent job. So if you haven't checked it out, please take a close look at that. And that's his report. Treasurer Deb.
Yeah, we're here. I'm not officially a treasurer yet. Well, I'm officially treasurer, but I have an assistant. And he sent me the numbers for tonight, which are $20 for the gaming and $14,052 for regular account. And then apparently we're supposed to do some shopping.
Pardon me?
We're supposed to do some shopping.
Okay, yeah, okay. So I think we've got some ideas floating around, but we'll get to the council meeting for that. So that's great. Well, thank you very much, Deb. Chris, membership?
Our current membership is 277. There are 10 people on the grace period list. So plus or minus a little bit maybe, but we're still holding up there. So if anybody's visiting tonight and doesn't already have, we have some complimentary Sky News magazines at the front.
Okay.
I think that's about it.
Okay, thanks. As for our outreach coordinator, we don't have yet a person for that. We've got a astronomy day coming up on April the 27th. That's a Saturday. And what we're going to do is we're going to have an opportunity for you to sign up for our Astronomy Day Party Planning Committee. And I think the group of us together will divvy up the little things and make a little work for everybody, and it will be an excellent opportunity to learn more about how these things come together, and I think we'll have a grand time at it. So you'll hear more about that later. School program, Sid.
School program, with Lori's help, Diane's help, with everyone's help, it's going too good to be true. Last year we had about 80 plus presentations. This year so far we have done 37, with urging on Lori to send another notice to the schools we got 14 more.
In a day.
So, so we will be as busy as last year. And we so far had one night sky building session. What I would like to say is that I have a grudge against the weather people. We have.
Get in line.
Get in line, that's right. We have a night sky viewing session for tomorrow evening as part of our 100th anniversary of IAU. But sadly to say that because of the weatherman, we have to cancel. So it's canceled. But another one coming on Tuesday, could you please ensure that we will have a good weather next Tuesday?
Only one request a month.
Good point.
Okay.
Anyway, so the program is going strong. We have too many requests we could accommodate, so we are going to see how we could get more people involved in this endeavor, and we'll see how far we will go. The kids love it. Kids enjoy it thoroughly. I don't know whether we enjoy it at the end of the day after 3 or 4 presentations. Voice is all hoarse. But it happens. It's very fun.
Okay. Thanks very much, Sid.
I needed that weather forecaster.
Matt. Technical committee.
Tough to follow that. So, as you mentioned, we have some new equipment on site at the BCO, so we're looking at what options are available to make the best use of the storage area. One thought that has occurred to some of us is potentially acquiring something like a shipping can. So I don't know if in the 5-year lease renewal you reserved one parking spot for a shipping container, but that might be an interesting avenue to explore for storage options, because then we could actually make use of the space as something like a warm room. So if we're looking at spending money, renovations might be an idea. Shipping can might be an idea. Open to everyone else's ideas. Aside from that, there's some kind of a optical stigmatism going on with the TPO scope right now. Something happened prior to the last observing session. Michel first noticed the issue when he was getting ready for his double star project, and he was seeing double stars on everything. So we're looking into that. I think there's a plan to go up on this weekend and try and address that. Some on the spot tweaking was attempted, but we didn't reach a resolution that night. So that's an issue going forward. Trying to think of anything else. No, aside from that, everything's good.
Okay, thanks very much. Joe, the website?
Well, one thing you did miss was that we're planning to spend some of that money on an imaging CCD camera of some kind. So we can eat up half of that anyway. As far as the website is concerned, just for the beginners and people who are visitors, Victoria Center has a website, victoria.rask.ca. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, and our email list as well. So everything's running fine as far as I know. Thanks.
And stay tuned tomorrow. There's going to be a new screen come up on the for the lunar observing. The eclipse. Michelle is not here tonight. I don't think we have any word on any more viewing on the plastic telescope or anything like that.
I believe he's coming later. He won't be at this.
Oh, he'll be up in the
He'll
library?
be up in the library,
Okay,
yes.
thanks very much for
Yeah.
that. Nelson?
For those of you that don't know, there's at least a couple here. The National Council is a body of the RASC that includes members of the National Board of the RASC and then representatives from each of the centers across the country. And this National Council has a meeting at the General Assembly every year, and then has a couple of meetings throughout the year that are held via WebEx. And I was going over the minutes of our last WebEx meeting, and there's a couple things of some interest. One has to do with green laser pointers and their use and getting permission from Transport Canada to use them. Edmonton Center reported that they had been able to get 1-year permits for using green laser pointers at their events. There were some good conditions attached. They had to have spotters and stuff like that with planes. Halifax Center reported that they could only get permits for 1 night. So that every time they had an event, they had to get a permit. Other than that, there seemed to be no consistency other than that inconsistency. Let's see what else was there. There was quite a lot of discussion at the last National Council meeting on the future of Sky News magazine. And the competing interests appear to be whether or not it should be a lost leader to generate interest in astronomy, both in Canada and in the US, where it's also available. Or should it be a profit-making body? Both of these affect the way books are kept considerably. So I suspect that will be a subject of conversation, I suspect, for months to come, although Chris, I'm sure, knows more about that than I do. Let's see. They have at the National Council meetings, at each meeting, they have a report from a center who talks about what they were. Each national rep, each representative from the center gives a little synopsis of what the centers are doing. What was interesting this time is that the 4 centers, only 2 of them had anything to say. Hopefully we will respond. Well, that will be up to me, I guess. So we shall see. The next council meeting, which is a continuation of most of these very same things, is going to occur February 10th, I think. So at February meeting, I may have more to report.
Okay, thanks very much, Nelson. We do have some upcoming events, and it is the 100th anniversary of the International Astronomical Union. And one of the things that they came up with, what better idea than to have 100 hours of astronomy going on in the middle of winter of Canada. So it kind of flew through the air like a wood stove. But it also traumatized some people because in 2009, the Victoria Center was one of the few that actually did have a 100-hour event, and I understand that they met a lot of interesting people in the wee hours of the morning. I'll leave it like that. So
Great event.
Pardon me?
It was great event.
It was.
Okay, well, at any rate, Sid, everyone else was ready to give up on this thing at the last council meeting, but Sid artfully repurposed one of his scheduled observing things into an IAU centennial event. I think that was pretty good of you. And that was scheduled, as you heard, for tomorrow. So that whoops, I can't, I screwed up.
You pushed the wrong button.
I think, I'll go back here. Sorry about this. I'm gonna go back to my analog behavior here. So as you can see, I'm gonna get a license and use a green pointer. So you can see it doesn't look too good tomorrow. But beyond that, we're going to have an observing session on Friday night, possibly at the 32-inch telescope at UVic. And that doesn't look that good either. So we'll probably be sending out a cancellation notice for that. So Sid, he's already canceled it, and I think we should go for it.
Yeah.
So now the other thing that's happened is we're going to have our first council meeting of the year on January 16th. It's normally held on the first Monday, but that was too close to New Year's. So we moved it on to the 16th, and that'll be up in the Astronomy Lounge. And so please keep that in mind. Everyone is welcome. The other thing is that on January 20th, we have the lunar eclipse. And as I mentioned before, tomorrow. Joe, David Lee, and John McDonald have been working, tweeting a really nice website for that. So thank you for your efforts there on how to observe the eclipse, things like that, and the geometry involved in this. We also have a member of our group who is on the National Observing Committee, Bill Weir, and he's been very effective at generating enthusiasm for this. So one thing that came up, and we tested it at the Astro Cafe on Monday night, is the idea of the Explore the Universe Guide. It's a book that accompanies the RASC ETU certificate program. And we had 10 people who are interested in getting this book at that group. And I don't want to double dip, but if anybody who wasn't at that group would be interested in getting a copy of this book, if we bulk order it, we get it for saving instead of $18, I believe it's around $10 plus shipping. So would anybody else be interested in acquiring that book here? One, two, he's got two fingers, three. So I think what we'll be doing is ordering probably at least 20 of these books. So if somebody else finds out about it, we'll have one at hand instead of mailing back to Toronto to get one. We'll give it to them right away, sell it to them right away, and jumpstart them in the program. So at any rate, this was all due to the enthusiastic promotion by Bill Weir. So thanks very much, Bill. The other thing is that we have our Astro Cafe every Monday night, starting at 7:30ish, and it's an informal session where you can come and ask questions. A lot of people show their astro photos and things like that, and it's a really free and easy group. And we're getting between 20 and 30 people out to that, so it's quite a positive event. And there's information of where to go for that. We'll be sending out maps, so when we do send out a reminder. And our next monthly meeting is on February the 13th. Because we've just changed our year-end date to align with the wishes of the Canadian Revenue Agency to end at the end of the fiscal year, we have to have an administrative, or what we call a mini AGM. It'd be a very short thing, but what we have to do is present a financial record for the last 3 months and say it's approved and get people to vote for it, and then we adjourn that meeting. So it might take approximately 5 minutes, but it's really important that we have it for the Societies Act and everything like that. So we'll be sending out a notice later whether or not it's going to be next month or the month after. We still have a few uncertainties there. The other thing that's gone on, we had an absolutely spectacular month for space exploration. I know we had 2 sessions at the Astro Cafe where we had Mars Madness celebrations before and after the InSight lander came online, and we've had our wonderful flyby of Ultima Thule by New Horizons, and in March, JJ Cavallars, who was on the team that selected MU-69, the snowman that was way out in the distance. He's going to be giving us a talk at the monthly meeting there about the latest results that are coming in from that. And also, we had the Chinese lander land on the dark side of the moon, pardon me, the far side of the moon, and they launched a little rover there, which is really an extraordinary achievement. So that's a pretty exciting. But the other thing that was kind of neat was we have a ridiculous acronym here that I can't remember to pronounce. But basically what it's going to do is land on this asteroid and hoover it and take a bit of dust back and return it to Earth. And it's called asteroid Bennu. And this is taken when it was 43 kilometers away from it on the December 19th. But down here is the Earth and the Moon. And the Earth and the Moon were 2.6 million times farther away from Bennu. And I think that's just a beautiful image to end the evening on. It's just extraordinary, because you get a bit of idea of the scale up there. So that's about it for that. So at this stage, I'm going to ask our acting vice president to introduce our speaker tonight. And he happens to be right here. Yes?
Could I just-
Oh, please do.
Yeah, okay. I have 2 calendars left. Now, I know we're already into 2019, but if anybody still would like a calendar, I'll give you a smaller price.
And you can get them autographed by the calendar editor too.
Oh, absolutely. Now, that will actually be another $20. But if anybody would like to, please do, because these 2, I've got one that I'm waiting for one person who I still haven't seen, but there's 2 up for sale. There we go. Oh, sorry, can I do another one?
Yeah.
On January the 20th, for the lunar eclipse, the DAO, the Center of the Universe, we are going to be having a meeting, or not a meeting, but an event at the Center of the Universe, and we will be meeting down in the east parking lot, where we can actually get the eastern view. We did this, how many years ago? 4 years ago?
Oh, about September 2015.
15, okay, so we did this before, and we'll set up the telescopes and have that ready. And because, of course, of our weather, we're also going to have things up at the Center of the Universe, and we're hoping to get a live feed from somewhere that's clear. And we'll also have some other information. We'll do some clips and things like that for people, and there'll be a little bit of some food, and so please come along. We do just have to go on our website and just sign in so that we know people. Oh, the website is the. Oh, which one are you using? Oh my gosh. Oh dear.
Center of the Universe, isn't it?
Centeroftheuniverse.net, the centeroftheuniverse.net. So it's a little bit of a different, we couldn't get Center of the Universe. So
Boy, I wonder why.
Yeah.
Is it a place about 2,500 miles away from here?
Yeah. Oh, where's that? Okay. So please.
It's kind of east and a little south, I think.
I mean, I know that the RESC may be covered. Are you planning on going to Mount Chomley?
No,
No. Are you planning on being somewhere else?
no.
Then come on out to the CU, no problem. Okay, thanks.
Good.
Thanks, Ray.
All right. Okay, could I ask the congregation to open their Observer's 2019 handbook to page 321. Tonight's sermon is Dark Nebula by Paul Gray. So he written the article here, and Paul traveled 4 time zones and had to fight his way through an Atlantic storm to get out of Halifax. And I wanted you to give an enormous and rousing applause to Paul for being able to make it. He's a guy who makes things happen, that's for sure. So. About 4 years ago in this very room, we were at the 2014 General Assembly, and there was another Gray in the room. His name was Nathan Gray, and I remember him giving a really wonderful talk about supernovae and stuff like that. And he was Paul's son, and he really gave us a very, I still remember it was a wonderful talk, and you should be very proud of him. But I got to tell you, our center has a Nathan too, and he's a pretty sharp, precocious boy. So there's something with the name too. Paul, it says here that Paul was hooked on astronomy with Halley's Comet in 1985, but that's not really quite true. when he was 4 years old, he got so excited when he saw stars through the window that I think his parents had trouble getting him back to bed at night. So he's been a keen astronomer from way back when. And he has been a very active member of the RASC since 1988. And he is a teenager, I think. He organized one of the star parties for the Halifax Center. So he was a really go-getter at an early age. He's been a president of both the Halifax and Moncton Centers, and on the national level, he's done an enormous number of things as well. He chaired the 2010 General Assembly. He's held numerous positions at the national level, including the chair of the National Observing Committee, and as you just heard, he's the editor of our beautiful RASC Observers Calendar. And he's been awarded the RASC Service Award in 2016. And he's also won 3 times the Ken Chilton Award, so it's remarkable. And the one thing he's done is he's got a passion for dark nebula, but he also has got a lot of gear that he's described. So if people are interested in telescopes and that, about his new observatory in his backyard and how that fits in with his latest project. But I should say before I turn the stage over to him that he's developed with David Lane a system to search for supernova, and he found his first supernova at the age of 22, and he's discovered 5 supernovas since then, and he shares one with his daughter Catherine Aurora Gray, and his son Nathan also found a supernova, as I suggested. So it's really quite a remarkable thing. So we have a bit of a rock star here, folks. So please welcome our man. After traveling all the way, let's see if he holds up.
I really do hope I hold up because I've been on the go since 4 a.m. Atlantic time. So do the math, I'm 1/5 the way through 100 hours now. So I guess that's one good thing. I did this talk last Saturday in Halifax. It took me about 50 minutes. So barring getting sidetracked because I'm half asleep, I should be able to do it the same here. That's my plan. And I will mention the kids a couple times maybe during this talk. I know people often ask me, what are they doing now? So I should probably just get that out a little bit first of all. Nathan's now in grade 10, so he's got 2 more years of high school left. He is actually thinking at this point in time, and he's doing a cooperative program through high school to go into culinary school. So he wants to be a chef. So, Catherine, the other supernova hunter and star, she was going nursing, and about 2 summers ago, we were to Norway for Starmus 4, the 4th Starmus edition. She was invited back, and all week, I could see the change. See her start. By the time we were ready to come home, she's like, I forgot how much I enjoyed science. And when we got home, she's like, I gotta change my course a little. I wanna go into astrophysics. So she's now in her first year of Bachelor's of Science at St. Mary's University with the plan to go into astrophysics. So that was a radical change. And the supernova leg or show hasn't ended. Catherine's been invited back to Starmus 5. So in June, we're going to Switzerland to Zurich to take part in that before we speak again. So it goes on and on and on. But this is about me tonight. I know Nathan was here 4 years ago. Tough act to follow. But dark nebula has been a passion of mine for a long time. It does go back to that section in the handbook, but it goes on way back before that. The Dark Nebula project wasn't mine to begin with. It was actually belonged to Doug Pitcairn, who was one of my mentors in the Halifax Center. And one of our members is a professor at Dalhousie University in Halifax. And one day the library came to him and said, you guys have any use for this? Should we keep this? Is this any good? And it was one of Bernard's photographic atlases of Milky Way. They had no idea what they had in their hands. And the prof took it to Doug and said, hey, you guys might be interested in this. And Doug literally looked at this and thought, what a gorgeous atlas. Look at all these dark nebulas. We should try and go and see these things. And that's where the project started. Doug wanted to create a list for the handbook of dark people. And this was late 80s, around 89, 90. None of us had no idea what we were looking for. Dark people weren't a very popular thing then. We were going north of the city of Halifax to look south at the Milky Way through the light pollution to try and see dark nipples, which wasn't going to happen. So we did find a few, but for the most part, we were like, this is nuts, because we had no atlases that had implied, we had no finder charts. We had no resource other than this photographic atlas of Bernard's, which the people who had it in their hands realized we don't take this out under dewy night skies in the Maritimes, because it's not where you want to get wet and damaged. And I'll tell you why in a bit if you don't know. But eventually it just died off, and eventually it came back to me. The 2001 was after I moved to the States, and I'll get to that in a minute. But go back to Catherine. This is when I moved to the States. About 98, I got an opportunity to work in Maryland. Couldn't pass it up, fresh out of 2 years out of university and college, had student loans paid off, and had a chance to go down the stateside and make 65 cents to the dollar American money. So it was a really good way to pay off student loan. While we were living in the States, I got the bug. I actually burned out. I sold my telescope before I moved to the States, and 2 years later, I got the bug again. And I bought the smaller Discovery dog, 12 and a half. Now I wish I bought the 15. At the time, I had 2 flights of stairs to go up. Now I don't. You'll see that later on. But this is actually Catherine. This is my 18-year-old daughter when she was 5 months old and had her first star party. So she's been doing it all her life. But I wanted to get back into doing stuff. One of the things I did do when I got that telescope was I finished my NGC certificate. And then I did, okay, now what? So that's quite often what we do when we finish our Messier list. What do we do next? Well, I would say do the NGCs, finance NGCs. Well, what do you do when you're done that? And that's where I was actually going through an old logbook and I found this old log sheet for dark nipples. That's where the idea came from, maybe I should try that again, a little further south, need something a little more challenging. The internet came along, a few other resources. So I got interested in dark nebula, and I got interested mostly in Bernard's atlas, and a little bit of Bernard. It's quite the astronomer, actually, for those who have never heard of him or read much about him. He's done quite a few things over his time. He actually started off when he was mid-teens, working for somebody on this contraption. Does anybody know what this is? Little hint. How many of you guys out there, girls, back in the day of film, had a dark room in your basement? Did you have it larger? This was the apparatus used to gather sunlight, to funnel the sunlight down into the building below through the enlarger. Bernard's job, this was the This was the owner, this was Bernard. His job was to sit here and guide this and track the sun for hours at a time during the day so they could make photographic prints. While he was doing that, he was noticing the orbit of the sun, the path of the sun across the sky, different times of the year, different seasons and stuff. That's where he started astronomy. That's where he started learning orbital mechanics and stuff and thinking about it in his head. Did a lot of things. This is actually a photo of one of our journals. This was in the journal back in the 90s, so you can look it up. So what else did he do? A few interesting things. Bought a refractor for $380 in 1876, 66% of his annual income. I wish I could do that. I'd love to spend 66% of my income in 1 year on a telescope. But I don't think my wife will let me. And somebody actually asked me that question, was he married? And somebody else said, not after that, he wasn't. So, I didn't think so. He did search for comets, and there's really a bit of a Nova Scotia right there. Simon Newcomb was the one who encouraged him to look for comets. Simon Newcomb was from Nova Scotia. So that's kind of a Canadian and Atlantic Canada connection. Discovered Jupiter's 5th moon. And the real neat thing about that discovery is it was visually, and it was the last visual discovery of a moon in our solar system. It was 1892. And of course, Bernard's star. Many of us heard Bernard's star. A lot of proper motion. If you go and observe it today or tonight, whenever it's clear, make a little diagram of it, and go in 10 years or 15 years and do the same thing, you'll see that it moved relative to the other stars. I did one about 1991. I have yet to go back and do a second one, but One of these days I'll get around to it. So just a few neat tidbits about who he was, but what his big work was dark nebulas, and he did most of that work with this telescope, the Bruce telescope. He actually referred to it as a portrait lens, and literally it was a 6-inch portrait lens, and it produced these gorgeous glass plates. I'll show you some of those. Unfortunately, this is now in pieces sitting in the basement of the Yerkes Observatory, which is soon to be closed, so it's long gone, it's not going to be preserved. But it did do an amazing body of work. And this is one of those plates from that lens. Gorgeous stuff. Give you an idea for reference, for those who know Bernard's S nebula, there's the snake, or the S. And probably a lot of you have seen photographs of the Great Galactic Horse, or the Galactic Horse in the southern Milky Way. It's actually, the body is here, the head is up here, and the front legs are here. So give you an idea of scale. This is about 9 degrees by 9 degrees of sky. Fairly large swath of Milky Way. And he went fairly deep in magnitude too. It's pretty phenomenal. What's really amazing is how long of an exposure it took to get this. I'll show you some of that in a minute. Of course, for doing visual work, as astronomers, when I wanted to do the project, I didn't have those resources originally. But around 1999-2000, Georgia Tech University took their copy of Bernard's Atlas and scanned the entire thing and posted it online for anybody to access, which is really nice. Because getting a hold of one of those atlases was next to impossible. If you could find one, it was quite unaffordable. And he originally only printed from 200 to 300 of them. I think it was 250 of them that were ever printed. And the reason for that is he was so picky about the quality of the prints. He actually went to the printers and he would select the plates coming off, like the paper prints coming off the press, and critique them. And if they weren't up to snuff, he'd throw them out. So there's only enough prints to put together 200 odd copies of his book when he passed away. So they're very rare. But when the Palmer Sky Survey came along as well, that became access online. The internet opened everything up. You got the Sky Survey, you got Bernard's Atlas, and this is the ink spot, one of this dark nebula. It's right beside an NGC cluster, which never escapes me right now. Easy to find the cluster, therefore it's easy to locate where the spot should be. But having these resources made doing this project much easier. So around 2000, 2001, when I got going at it, it was doable, and I was finding these things. The other thing that happened around 2000 is the entry of 2000 Sky Atlas brought out its second edition, revised, and fixed all the errors that were in the first one, so they said. Like the missing 6 magnitude star, that was on one of the pages. One of my friends in Halifax, Pat Kelly, some of you might know Patrick Kelly, he was really losing it one day to observe it because he found this 6 magnitude star in the sky that's not in the Atlas. Is this a nova? What's going on here, right? So yeah, that was quite an interesting evening until we realized it's over the other Atlas, but not that one. But one of the things they claimed is they plotted all of Bernard's dark objects, so all 300 dark objects, and I wanted to highlight one of them. This one's actually B138 and 139 and 141 up here. And there's another one up there, 140, but mainly this one. Kind of looks like a lizard, stick drawing of a lizard. What's really neat is that's what Bernard called it on his atlas too. But it's been buried away in the atlas. I asked a number of people over the years, have you ever heard of this? Like, what? What was that? I said, the lizard. No, I've never heard of it. So, but it was on the atlas, and just to show the atlas plots them out really well. It's nice, it's a great resource. So there is ways of finding them. But I still say to this day, the best tool for looking for these things is Bernard's Atlas itself. And there's a number of reasons for that. Unfortunately, the original version, of course, was very rare, very hard to find, and we don't want to get wet. They have, Astronomy Magazine, I believe, bought the rights to it, was actually reprinted it. So you can now buy a soft cover version of it, which is gorgeous, and I have a copy. But this is a photograph of one of the originals. It was a 2-volume set. Had plates, had his descriptions and tables that are really nice. I'll go through them each here in a minute. This is actually a shot just of my softcover version sitting on the bed. So it sits probably about 10 by 10, 12 by 12 in size. It's a fairly good size. And just shows you a bit of the charts. I'll go into more details about the atlas itself in a minute. I just want to show you generally what it looks like when it's out. In his atlas, beyond the introduction, he has about, I think it's 47 or 49 plates make up the atlas. For each plate, he has a description, and this is the first page, and he describes everything he would have saw on the plate or that he would have noticed, and anything, peculiar and so on. But reading it's a joy, because of course, reading something was written in the late 1890s, and I especially like here, this is the second paragraph, where he's talking actually about, in this case, the North American Nebula region, and just the outline of velocities. It is in splendid contrast with the blackness of sky, which is relieved here and there by bright stars, like lighthouses of the great sea. It's fun to read. It's really neat. Every page is like that, so it's just fun to go through and read and see what he's thinking or looking at. And there's gets into details on some stuff, but what's really cool? Exposure time. 4 hours and 20 minutes. One glass plate, manually guided for 4 hours and 20 minutes. He almost died one night of hypothermia by freezing at the telescope. He literally could, I think they said it took him an hour to get from the telescope into by the wood stove. He was that cold and frozen. It's very lucky. There's another time, he was actually in the, was it the Yerkes Observatory, the floor collapsed, Jim, do you recall? No, which one it was. He was in one of the observatories. It was a wooden floor that raised up, and he was in the observatory that night. It was literally an hour or two after he left that the whole thing fell and collapsed. And, if he was in there, he would have been dead. It was just a pile of timber. So, lucky guy. This is a photograph that went with that previous description. Just a typical shot of the North American Nebula. This is actually done with the 10-inch telescope that he had done 3 or 4 regions with. It did have a smaller field of view, probably 5.5 by 6 degrees or so. But it too did gorgeous work. I mean, you got to remember, this is 100 years ago. Compare that to what people are doing today. He was doing pretty good work. But mind you, 4 hours of exposure. Far from auto guiding. Then he would have, with that plate, a listing of everything that he cataloged on. He would number objects, but he would then give the area index, and if it was a star, he would give him the catalogs, whatever it was for those stars. But at the bottom, he would list his dark objects. And these numbers he would write on the plate. The next pages would be actually a hand-drawn sketch of the plate with what he saw on it. And then there's all your numbers for all the reference stars that he had on his table. Then, of course, his objects are on here as well. So here's a 2, 3, this is what, 5. This is the bigger lens, as I said. So there's a 5 degree by 5 degree chart showing exactly what he saw, what you want to look for. That's your finder trick right there. That's perfect. And then he would also take one of his plate to draw on the plate exactly what he drew on the chart. It's amazing what he went through just to produce this atlas. So anyway, I did a bunch of observing. I went through almost half of his list before I came up with the list for the handbook. And I've often said, and I've been asked by 3 editors since this went in the handbook, if I'm ready to add a second page. I often tell them I am, but I haven't known what I want to add to it. I just haven't had the time to put it together. And then there's these other odd things that go on with the handbook. For some years, you have an eclipse show, total eclipse. For Windows, there's 8 pages they got to add for that. Or they got to take stuff away from other pages to add those 8 pages. Or Venus transits. Oh, there's a whole whack of pages, right? So there's a whole lot goes into whether or not you add a page or don't add a page. But I've never got around to adding a page. But by far, this list is basically the best of the best dark objects in the sky. So if you want to start looking at these things, this is where you want to go. There are 1 or 2 on here that are not the best of the best. Just like the finest NGC list has 1 IC object on it, just to give you an idea of what it's like to look for index catalog objects. Don't go there. Well, I have one on here. It is 303 in Sagittarius, number 20. And it is, I say 8-inch or 10-inch telescope, but you really need it. It's done an IC 4685. So it's in an IC object. It's an emission nebula. I tell people this is the summer version of the Horsehead. That's the level of difficulty. It's tough, but it is doable. So yeah, I completed the project about 2003, I guess it was, and it went in the handbook. And yeah, on other stuff, right? There's always something else that comes along. But what did I learn from doing the project? First and foremost, this is one thing I learned. Probably one of my favorite quotes about dark nebulas. They're not easy to see, that's for sure. You need to be an observer before you try to go find them, and you need to learn from other observing experiences. Of course, start easy. Start with the ones that are on the list that are clearly identified with 3 exclamation marks as being really good. Dark skies. You want as dark a sky as you can possibly get. You need as much contrast as you can get. You're looking for voids in either nebulas or in stellar background, the Milky Way clouds. Right? So you're looking for just that contrast between there's something there and there's nothing there. You're not looking for a glowing faint fuzzy. There's no faint fuzzy to be had. So it's tough in that way. I talk about nights with above transparency. You can't say enough. You have any bit of humidity, forget it. Same with being dark adapted and well rested. I would not go out tonight and try to observe. 20 hours, no, I just can't do it. Observe the object when it's on the meridian. It's quite simple. That's when it's the highest it's ever going to get in the sky for you at that time from that location. The less air mass to look through, the better the chance of seeing it. Use light pollution filters if possible, if applicable. Quite simple. If it's an object that's in an emission nebula or even sometimes reflection nebula, a light pollution filter will sometimes enhance the nebulas, should help you enhance the contrast of the dark area. So just think about what you're looking at or what you're trying to see. In a lot of these cases, you're not trying to see the dark nebula, you're trying to see the nebula it's part of. Because if you can see the nebula, then you can see the dark nebula. Right? Different way of thinking about it. Clean and well quality optics. See some astigmatism going on? It's not going to happen. You need that sharpness. Good charts and images. I told you where there's a lot of places to find those. And of course, let your brain work. The brain does an amazing job of finding patterns. It wants to pick up patterns, and it will. So the longer you look, the better your chances of seeing it. Also know what you're looking for. I threw these in just to give you a few ideas. I mentioned filters. The Horset. Which filter do you need for the Horset?
O3?
Oh. You can under really dark skies, but that's not the true Horset filter. H-beta filter is the Horset filter. It's good for about a handful of optics. That it really works well. Horset is one of them. The really neat thing I like about this shot, and this was done with Mega Prime on the Canada Francois telescope a number of years ago now, is how much detail it shows in the head of the horse itself. All this stuff. And there's even more of them on my screen. There's actually a dust layer that goes all the way up to this little globule here. And when I first saw this come out of Mega Prime, it reminded me of the Pillars of Creation that Hubble did of the Eagle Nebula. All this stuff going on in here. For years, I read books that told me dark nebulas were either clouds of dust or gas obscuring the stellar or nebula background behind it. Well, to me, that looks like it's not something obscuring what's behind it. It's actually a physical void of starburst and stuff going on. So a lot of them are really part of it. So just a lot of those books are out of date. What else did I learn? I learned that all books, charts, and things written down aren't always entirely accurate. This was one of the neat things that came out of this. Robert Byrne put together a 3-volume Celestial Handbook. I think most of us probably have a copy or had a copy at some time. And he noted in it, he put a plate in from the Palmer Sky Survey, and he knew about Bernard's work, and he had access to one of his atlases. But in his writing or in his observing, he noted this dark object in the Lagoon Nebula that kind of looked like a comet. It was roughly the right place to be what Bernard listed as his 88th object in his list. So Robert Byrne publicized in his Celestial Handbook that the dark comet was B88, and that it was this object on such and such a plate. Well, there's his dark comet, right there. And this is actually out of Bernard's, this is out of the Anometry of 2000. And when that came out, I wanted to check all the objects to make sure they're all plotted correctly. And I found B88 was way up here, which kind of corresponds with this, like this. These 3 stars, or these 3 stars. So either this is in the wrong spot, and the dark comet should be here, or these two are not the same object. I was working with Rajiv Gupta at the time, who's the editor of the handbook, getting ready to go to press, and he's like, which one is it? It's like, how soon do you need to know? It's like, next week. It's like, oh, okay. Then you get to house, you pull the atlas, because that's the only way I could check it, was to get a hold of an atlas. Check it out. And that's what we did. He went to his resources, I went to mine, and we actually went, and I pulled up the description that Bernard wrote in his atlas, and I pulled up the chart, and he even draws on his chart. It's in the upper edge of the nebula, he draws it on here as well. So it most definitely is where the Animetrium 2000 has applied, which means Robert Berman cited the wrong object in his book. But for the last 4 decades, observers have been calling it the same thing. They still do this day. I still try to tell people, no, they're not. So I gotta throw some pretty pictures in here, right? This is actually what the Deborah Saramola did. It was in the calendar a few years back. But I put it in because it shows the dark comet beautifully, it shows B88 and a bunch of other stuff, just gorgeous stuff. And the other reason I put this in is not just that it's a pretty picture, but it's a pretty picture that a lot of you have because you bought the calendar. And you can use it as a finder chart. Calendar photos are great finder charts. I've used, that's how I learned to find Stephan's quintet so easy. Back in the 90s, there was this gorgeous shot that Rajiv did of NGC 7331 with Stephan's quintet. And it's a perfect finder chart. So it's great. And you know, it's a 10-year-old calendar, cut the page up, off you go. So anyway, back to the dark comet. Me and Rajiv came to the agreement that it was not the same object. So then the question, of course, is, well, what is the dark comet? And we came to the conclusion after looking through all the catalogs, no one's ever cataloged it. So it's not designated as anything. So we publicized it and said it's Burnham's dark comet. Bernard's B88 is still his object, but the dark comet is Burnham's dark comet. And we wrote Astronomy and SkyTel magazine, and they did publish, one of them put it in as a letter to the editor, full page, all the reasoning, all the facts behind it, and a couple pictures and stuff. So it is out there that it's been corrected. So that was kind of neat. I mentioned the lizard. Here's a picture of the lizard. So there's the head, the body, the legs. Kind of looks like a lizard. That's what Bernard described it as in his atlas. And what was really neat about that was, like I said, I'd ask people, have you ever seen the lizard? And they're like, what are you talking about? And I tell them about it. And then I was at Starfest, I guess it was 2006. And I was giving a talk in Dark Nebula. That was one of my first talks, right after the handbook was published with the listing. And Terry Dickinson walked into the tent for my talk. I was at Starfest. It was a rainy Starfest, which means everybody was going to all the talks because they want to get in the big tents out of the rain. They put me in the small tent because I had the little talk, and they had some prof in the big tent doing much bigger talk. And mine was standing room only around the walls. We had about 400 people jamming the little tent. And just at the very end, I'm about to start, Terry Dickinson walks on the coach. He's like, you know, one of my mentors, right? And he came in and I talked about this during that talk. And afterwards, he came and found me. He said, are you coming to my talk later? I said, I was hoping to. He said, please do. So I think I have a picture of that lizard in one of my slides. So I went to his talk, and when he got to that slide, he paused. Paul, are you here? I said, yeah, I'm here. He said, is this it? I said, yeah. He said, how many people have seen this before? Like 4 hands go up. Don't even know what it's called? Never heard of a name for it. There's about 500-600 people there, all observers. So it's kind of neat to find out. But I had to go and take my own picture, so there's my own little picture. Here's the lizard. This is an Aquilia from one of its rich star clouds. And this picture is kind of what threw me into the second part of this whole thing. Peter Jedicke in London heard the talk, and he said, so you observed half of them? I said, yeah. He said, have you ever thought about photographing them all? No. You should. That's a project for another day. and I did this as a test once, just to see what it'd be like with just a camera lens, and I was happy with it, but that kind of got buried away because other things came along, supernovas and stuff like that. I just wanted to show another shot from Bernard's atlas, just to show you how beautiful it is and how good he was doing for that long ago. Probably can't pick that out of where that's at. Can anybody have enough idea where that's at in the sky? Remember, it's about 9 by 9 degrees. Look familiar? I see 1396 in Cephas. Roughly to the same scale. So this is the elephant trunk, which is going in right through here. There's the big V shape, that's the sky up here. This is Ron Brecher's work. This was also the county. I can't put it up there and not show it full size. I gotta give him his credit and justice. Beautiful work, beautiful. The yellow star, is that me? No. Yes, it is me, is it? You see this. Gorgeous work. And here's the chart for that same slide that Bernardo drew. And everything in that nebula is right in here. And all of these are visible from a dark site in a decent sized amateur telescope. So what you have to remember is you're not going to see them easily. You're going to see the edges that have solid lines are the more defined edges. The edges that have the dashed lines are less defined. So there's the more defined part of the V. There's this S shape. I think the next slide is back up. So there's the S shape down there, the V. You can see how the more defined one edge. But what's neat to remember is this is a very large object. You can't fit it all into your view in one telescope. But if you go through and hop around and start finding the edges of some of these, you start to see that edge. There's a little darker area, there's a bit of light. Well, that light you see is the velocity of IC 1396. So you can't see it all in one go, but you can see parts of it. Laura,
What's the dark thing in the middle?
this whole?
Yeah.
Just an area with less than velocity or less excitement. It's not being energized as much. It's not, Bernard never actually cataloged it. Well, maybe 160 would be the, where are we at here? Yeah, it might be 160 actually. He's actually just in here, so yeah, it might be right in there. I'll have to go through it again and look at it. But it is definitely more of a void there. Lots to be seen, sure. But these charts are priceless. Like the new Atlas, the printed soft cover is priceless. If you want to go look at these things, these finder charts are perfect. I don't know how long that exposure was. I don't have the table. So now what do you do? What do I do? What was I going to do once I was done the publicizing and kind of went on to other stuff? Well, I always encourage people to look at these things if they're at a dark site. If any of you ever get to Mount Clovo, there's your place, right? I'd love to get up there sometime and try these because talking to Alan Whitman and a few others, it's where I need to be. Matter of Texas. The idea of a future expansion in the handbook is always on the back burner. Expect James Edgar will be acting for that shortly. Complete visual observation of the whole list of dark objects that Bernard cataloged. That one was a pipe dream when I started this. I thought it'd be kind of neat to say I did it. I don't know if it's doable. 2017, when we went to Norway for Starmus, I was talking to David Eicher, the editor of Astronomy magazine, and he is a big dark nebula guy too. So we just started talking dark nebulas, and once he said, Paul Craig, I know the names. Dark Nebula Observer's Handbook, that's it. And off we went. And he asked me how many I observed. I said, over half. He said, have you ever thought of trying all of them? I said, I want to, I just haven't gotten around to it. And he's like, I don't think anyone ever has visually seen them all. So it's not an easy thing to do. So I'm thinking about going back to them. And of course, the last one on the list is the one Peter Jenneke gave me, was the complete imaging of the dark nebula list. And that's been kind of simmering for a while. But recently it's come a little more to the forefront. This is not the prettiest of pictures. There's the Galactic done. Look at the hindquarters, front quarter legs, there's the head, there's the body. So it's not the prettiest of pictures, but what's significant about those pictures, it's from my backyard, and it's two 30-second exposures. 1 minute, about 1600 ISO. And that's looking south, and you can see the Milky Way further down into the trees, as you can see. So I have a very dark backyard. We finally moved back to Nova Scotia after being away for years. We lived in the States for 5 years, where Catherine was born. Then we're up in New Brunswick, Fredericton area for 10 or 11 years. And we finally moved back to the Annapolis Valley in Nova Scotia, which is where Susan's originally from. I was an Army brat, so I don't have roots. But Mom and Dad are only an hour away. But when you have a backyard like this, and you're finally putting down roots, and you're finally staying in one spot, what comes next? Observatory, right? Everyone's dream is an observatory. So I finally got around to doing it. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it on a budget. I'm going to take a few ideas, and I'm going to give you a quick run through here of what I did. So first and foremost, you got to dig a hole, or multiple holes. 6 holes for the building, 1 hole for the pier. So I show this in Halifax, everybody wants to lynch me. Because Dave Lane screamed about 8 inches of topsoil off of bedrock before he started trying to build his observatory that we found supernovas with. I used a shovel and post hole digger, and I dug a 24-inch diameter hole 5 feet into the ground and found 2 rocks the size of my fist. It's nice to live in farm country. The white band is actually about 8 inches, and this dark band is about 12 inches, and that's all sand. And then everything below that is silty sand. So really easy digging, really easy. Like I said, easy digging, dug a bunch of other holes as well. The port pier, there put in a little bit of a deck. And this was actually the fall of 14. And it was at this point that I stopped, because I wanted to put in these footing posts and the pier and let it settle for winter. I wanted frost to get at it for a year, things to set. I knew it was deep enough at 5 feet. We only have a 3.5, 4 foot frost line. Last winter we had no frost, actually. It was quite amazing. And the reason I know that is the other problem with living rurally is you have a septic, which means you have a lateral from your house to your tank to your septic. And the 40-year-old lateral from my house to my tank decided at the end of it was finally going to rot off and drop down from the entrance to the tank. So everything was going as far as the tank could stop it. Of course, nothing was going up from the house. So in late January, I went out with a shovel and I dug up my lateral, which was only 2.5 feet deep, and there was no frost. So it was pretty lucky. But this particular year there was frost. I did do this. This was fall of 15. And of course, we just mentioned earlier the eclipse, September of 2015. Well, I had a pier with a plate on it, bolts, and I could put my mount on it. I was going to use it, so I bought a cheap piece of plywood and just flopped it down on there. And I was observing on this a couple times that winter. And there's my eclipse shot from 2015. So I took hundreds, which we all do. I made a short one, but I like this one because that star was very on the limb and about to be halted by the moon during the eclipse. So yeah, it sat over winter. April came, a large black monolith showed up. Probably wondering why it's so dark. A few things I've learned over the years, I'm actually a building technologist by trade, so I've got a 2-year diploma, just shy of engineering in Nova Scotia. I work for the County of Kings now, mostly doing road, sewer, waterworks, sidewalk work. But what I did is I went back, actually flipped the frame up off of the footings, because it was just laying there for the winter. I dug down about 4 inches, put down 6 mil vapor barrier, covered with gravel. There's never been a lick of moisture underneath the observatory, which is great. But then I also put some roofing paper on top of all the floor joists. They're all pressure treated, but I put that on top of them. And then I went to the hardware store and I found the ugliest, crappiest looking color of paint, mist tint stain they had on the shelf and bought it for $10 a gallon. Because I stained the bottom of all my floorboards, plywood, before I laid it down. So the bottom is stained with 2 coats of stain as well, so moisture can't come up from below. I did that on a day when my daughter was homesick from school. She decided to come up and join me. It was a beautiful day in April. So we got the floor down and I could really use the observatory. View looking south, On the ground in front of it's a couple of beams I was building for the rails. Putting it together. Again, there's the beams on the floor. There is a notch in the wall on both sides here. That's where the beam's actually going to go. And I built the beam as part of the wall, just in far enough I want it to be kind of incorporated so it wouldn't twist. And when I did put it in here, it's screwed both ways, but it's also glued as well. And actually threw the mount on that day because that evening was going to be clear. So even when it wasn't finished, I was still using it. And to this day, it's still not finished. There's always something to be doing to it. I never got around to finish it all. The beams I made myself, rather than buying 6x6, which is really expensive down east, I actually bought 2x6, put them side by side, glued them, screwed them, and then I glued and screwed 2x4 to the top. And the advantage to this compared to straight 6x6 is it won't twist this way and it won't twist this way. So that beam won't skew on me. Hopefully it means the roof will roll right. The other thing you might notice is on top there's a piece of angle iron. It's 1.5 by 1.5 inch angle iron inverted. I'll show you that in a minute as well. So there's the first beam I was just putting it on. I didn't have all the cross bracing in yet. I was just getting everything jigged and lined up. And once everything's square, the cross bracing would go in. I did stain the floor gray. I didn't want to stain it black. I want to be able to find that eyepiece cap when I drop it. Black on black doesn't help at night. So the roof eventually went on. There's a couple kids in there looking out. My two youngest, the 10-year-olds now. They want to always be involved. Pretty lightweight roof is what I put on. In the end, the way I rigged the roof up was those angle irons. They're inverted, they're toenail screwed with stainless steel screws and washers every 8 inches on both sides. And then I used these for casters, and they're a 3-inch diameter V-groove caster wheel. They're each rated for 300 pounds. There's 6 of them. My roof isn't 1,800 pounds. There's 5 trusses, 2x4 built trusses that I made plus gussets. And then the beams that these are screwed to are again 2x6 with a 1/2 inch plywood in between, all glued and screwed together. So it's not coming apart. They're just lag bolt with 4 3-inch lag bolts up into the beam. And the beauty of this is when I'm pushing it out and pulling it in, if there's ever any reason for it to bind, it doesn't. Those V-grooves just ride up and down on those rails. There's no binding, there's no sideway wheels and downward wheels, so you won't get the twist and bind. If you twist it, it just rides up and then rides down. Won't ride off, but it'll go up and down. I anchor it down just with 4 turnbuckles, 1 in each corner. That's the way it's locked up at night. Pretty simple. Just put it in, crank her down. And then I have the turnbuckle that's normally against the closed wall. I just clip it into this eye hook when I get to the end of it. It'll roll off the end on me or blow off in the wind. Normally if it's that windy, I'm not observing anyway. This hook is just to hook it up when I roll again so it doesn't catch on anything. Also visible here is the outside sheathing. It's just glued and screwed to the beams, and that actually overlaps the outside by about 16 inches. I'll have a shot of that here in a second there, you can see it there, so it just overlaps. There's about a 3/8 to a 1/2 inch air space all the way along the wall under that overlap. And it's actually quite nice. If you go in there on a warm summer day, you can actually feel the draft, you can feel the airflow through there, which is really good. And of course, I used a sheet metal roof, and the top of the roof as well is peaked, and just cut the draft too, so it's not too bad. The picture on the left is a little darker than I'd hoped it doesn't really show, but wanted to show that lap, how it comes to the end, and there's just a piece of trim on the corner that it comes and butts up against. This is actually just painted black, so that when it's rolled off, you'll see it in another picture. It's not bright white right over where I'm observing. Very simple roof design. I made my trusses square. I made the ends of them square. No odd cuts. No need for funky eaves or anything like that. I just brought the sheets past the last piece of the roof. That's my drip edge. It goes down and just drips off there. All in all, the roof is about 160, 180 pounds. It rolls with one hand. Really simple, very simplistic. There it is off, and there it is closed. 8x12, built it myself, no help. A couple kids now and then, but really no help labor-wise. Pretty easy. I would do it again. So what's in it? This is not the way it looks now, or this was not the way it looked when I first got it. When I first built it, I built it for 2 scopes. I had a classic orange tube C8 that I don't think I ever put on my mount. I had it, never used it, sold it. And I had a Stellarvue 70 millimeter model number 00025, so one of the very early Nighthawks. And I love that Stellarvue, very nice white field. So when I built the roof and I built the whole observatory, it would fit those 2 scopes on my mount. Beautiful. And then, late December, right around Christmas time, just after Christmas, in 16, somebody posted an ad on a local Kijiji of all places for a telescope for sale. They had a Skywatcher Maksutov Newtonian 190 for sale or trade. Guy lived in Digby, about 40 minutes from me. Had an observatory, had this nice tube in there, on an EQ6 mount, and decided that getting older, can't get up to that awkward eyepiece that often. I want to get something that's got a rear casing eyepiece. Either a Maksutov Cassegrain or a refractor. So he was looking for either a 5 or 6 inch Cassegrain or a 4 inch or 5 inch ED refractor. Jeez. This sounds interesting. I should write this guy, see what he's really looking for, right? Well, 2 weeks before that, Blair McDonald in Halifax, who's one of our best imagers, upgraded from a 100 ED refractor to a brand new E-screen. And he was selling his 100, and I said, you know, Blair, this is before I know about this one for sale. I said, I really kicked myself for selling my 100 ED to Dave Chapman 2 years ago. What are you asking for that? He said, $650 for the case and the rings and the tube. Yeah. So for you though, Paul, it's probably $550, $500. Well, it's Christmas though, Blair. He said, I'll hold on to it until January. So this showed up in January. So I wrote the guy, I said, you looking for 100 ED? He said, yeah. I said, you looking for a strike trade or you looking for 100 ED in cash? And he said, no, strike trade. If you got one, it's in perfect shape. So I might have one. So I called Blair. I said, Blair, you still got that refractor? He said, yeah. You want it? I said, what do you want for it? 500, Paul. All right. I'm going to be honest with you. So what's up? I said, I'm going to buy it, but I'm not going to keep it. Don't want, I've known you for 15 years. I don't want you to feel bad for me buying it and then turning around and being a Ferengi, so to speak. And he said, what are you doing? I said, well, there's a guy down this way that wants to trade for 100 ED. I said, what do you get? I said, 7.9 inch Maksutov Newtonian. Scope is yours. Come get it tomorrow. So off I went. I bought the $500 refractor. I turned around, drove to Digby, and I traded it for this 8-inch Newtonian Mac Newt. And then I got home and I looked at my HEQ5 and said, this probably isn't big enough now, but I got to try it. And then I thought, well, maybe I'll sell this and turn around, buy a smaller 6-inch Mac Newt or something. But I've always wanted a Mac Newt. Ever since I looked at Terry Dickinson's Cerebolo Mac Newts that he had, I always wanted one because I knew how good they were. So I eventually got one. The other problem was though on the HEQ5 mount, I could not park it in the home position because the roof was too low. So eventually I got to the point where I got to try it out. I did observe with it a couple nights, and I looked at Jupiter, I looked at some double stars, and it just, as expected, the optics blew my socks off. The Mac Newt did what it was supposed to do. 7.9 inch Mac Newt's like a 6-inch Apple. It's it's unbelievable. And I was like, I cannot sell this telescope. I need a bigger mount. So off I went, sold the Stellarvue 70 with my HEQ5. And I bought it at EQ6, so that's what's in there now. And the beautiful thing about going to the newer mount, it has a custom park position. So this is the park position for the foot, and the roof clears it by 2 inches. So I didn't have to do any other modifications. And it was a Skywatcher mount, so all I had to do was change the plate, pop on there. Real easy. I've gone on and built a little desk. I used to have that little camping table. The first year and a half, I did not want to build any desk. I did not want to permanently put power anywhere. I wanted to see how I fit in the observatory. Where would I sit? Where would I operate? How would I work? How would I, figure that out rather than design the observatory and try to work in it, then design it to what you do. So that's what I've done. I'm slowly putting the wall cladding up on the inside. The back wall is done and is all painted black. You'll notice I'm leaving a gap at the top and the bottom. Any idea why? If you close in that cavity, it heats up in the daytime, it stays warm at night. If you leave it open at the top and bottom by those few inches, it allows that air to clear in. So that's why I did that. The other neat thing, you might notice this little, it looks like an LED strip light there. It is. I actually put it on the outside of the beam there on the top plate. And I put a piece of strapping above it on the flush with the top plate. And I put a piece of plywood on the outside that overlaps it. So this rope light is recessed up under the ledge. You can't see it, but it's on a dimmer switch and I can adjust it up and down. So I have company in the observatory. I have all this nice red glow on the floor. And you can see where it's there, where you're walking. I really don't have it on at all. What other things are there? People ask me, do you have problems with spiders? No, I never have problems with spiders. I do have problems with wasps. I had three times I've had to try to build a nest in them. Put one of these in, never had one since, 2 years. So they do work. Wasps, if there's a nest there, they won't come in. Clock. A very strange looking clock. My mother won this at a penny auction. And gave it to me, saying, you might want this. I'm like, what the heck am I going to do with that? And then the observatory said, it hangs on the ledge. Susan often says I lose track of time. I tell her space-time is warped. Right? So that's my work clock. It's something to talk about. People see it and say, what is that? Yeah, so here's a view of my observatory as it is now. Again, I got the little desk, I got the map here there, I got my 12.5, it's 8 by 12, it fits me nicely. I can go down there, I can set up an imaging run, I can do some good imaging, I can observe if I want, the 12.5. If I want, I can observe the 8-inch if I want to take the cameras off. Actually, I should back up. Oh, the vessel wires. I'm still working on that. I think that's always an ongoing thing. The worst thing about that is it's always changing. Up till recently, I've always been using my DSLR. Never changed, had the wires tied. Last year, somebody loaned me, Dave Lane, through St. Mary's, loaned me an ST402AV, this big CCD camera. So whew, not taking pretty pictures with it. It's purely for science. I'm going to try and do science. And last month, I actually did my first exoplanet. And I started too late, and I stopped too soon, and I had the very bottom of the drop and the very start of the beginning of the climb. So I have a beautiful, beautiful flat bottom of the light curve, and I don't have the drop of the climb too. So, but I can do it. The neat thing is with this camera for my dark skies, my data on that night, I was measuring my scatter. My noise scatter is 0.005 of a magnitude. And I'm looking for drops of 0.001 or 0.01 or 0.02. So my noise is really, really good. Dave said, you doing this with an 8-inch telescope? I said, yeah. He said, dark skies. I'm doing what he's doing with the C14 because of the darker skies. So it's quite nice to have that on loan, and I'm looking forward to doing it. And this actually goes back to Catherine, because she's wanting to do exoplanet stuff, and I'm hoping by next year, which is in year 2 of her university program, she'll learn how to use AstroImage J, and she'll help me be able to reduce data, because I am lost doing that. Going off the deep end. Looking forward, that's the observatory. I do take some pretty pictures. This was a couple of years ago with the Stellar View, the 70. So not bad. Not counter quality, but not bad. Everybody asks me when I'm going to put my own picture on the calendar. I say I'm not good enough. And honestly, I'm not. M51, that was with the DSLR 2 winters ago. And the Veil, that was, I think that was only 2 years, or a year ago actually, just before I sold the 70. That was the 70. Again, that's an unmodified DSLR, so it's not picking up a lot of the red. But dark skies help a lot, though. I can't say enough. And I do toy a little bit with planetary and the moon. This one I did put in the calendar a year or 2 ago. And the reason I put it in the calendar was, well, 2. One, most shots on the calendar of the moon for example, this year, so Mike Worth's image, are video, thousands of frames, stacked, processed, blah, blah, blah. This is a single frame shot. It just goes to show that under really good scene conditions, you can still get really superb images of the moon. And this probably doesn't show up, but I mean, Clades, you can go in there and you count 7 or 8 of the crater lights when you zoom in on it. It's just spectacular. It's amazing, you know, for a single frame. And really not much in the way of dodging and burning or processing, and you still have lots of detail. And, the waxing gibbous moon, the detail of the Terminator is phenomenal. So I wanted to really push that. Here's the moon, you know, not through a 20-inch telescope doing video. Here's the moon that you can see. So that's the only time I've ever put my own picture in the camera. I felt I could get away with it. I did play with Jupiter last spring. It's a little dark, but I did get the red spot, and I got a shadow. And right there's a little bump on the side of the planet. That's the moon coming off the disk. So not bad. Don't ask me the details on that. I don't remember. It was a while ago. So why build an observatory? Story. Ask my wife. She's glad I got some stuff out of the house. It really helps. But the biggest thing is it's easy to go observe it. And these numbers are a little skewed. These are nights that I've imaged, because when I went back through my folders, those are nights I had data for. So there's several nights that I probably deleted because the data was crap. I know there's a few of those. I was trying to do planetary imaging. It was just horrible seeing. I just waste of a night. And then there's probably a dozen nights each year that I did not image, and I have no log of where I just went down, took the 12.5 or the 8-inch, put eyepieces in, and just looked for the sake of looking, or had friends or my daughter or son had friends over, and we went up and just showed them some stuff. So it's probably closer to 60 or 70 nights last year that I actually used the observatory. In the 3 years at that house, since we moved back to Nova Scotia, before I built the observatory, you know how many times I was out imaging? 5. So that's the difference the observatory made. Out there all the time. And now I'm not even out there. I got Wi-Fi from the house to the observatory. I open it up, I start it up, I go indoors, I watch hockey, I sit on the laptop. It's wow. So what am I doing next? Back to Dark Nimbus. That little idea that Peter Jetke put in my head has stuck with me. I'm under dark skies, I got an observatory, I got a nice permanently mounted tracking German equatorial map, and I can put a camera on there. So I'm going to go back and I'm looking at that Dark Nebula project. So just give you an idea, I wanted to do a test, and I did this last winter. I'm back in imaging again this winter. But this is actually the head of Orion. So this is the head here, this is Bellatrix. So there's a few Dark Nebulas on here. And the other reason I wanted to include this is there's another neat thing. Bernard's Dark Nebula list has a reflection nebula, B223. And he says the only reason you can see this large area around it that's void of anything is because you can see it, which doesn't make sense to me, but that's what he said. So yeah, he actually has a reflection nebula classified as a Bernard object, which is weird. But there's the chart for the area, and there's his photograph of the area. I have found that with my 85mm 1.8 Canon portrait lens, it gives me about a 10 by 14.5 degree field of view, which makes a very easy crop to duplicate his fields with my own. That's what I'm doing. So this is roughly the same field of view. This one, mine's a little skewed. I didn't get this one rotated quite properly. There's the reflection nebula by the star that here highlighted, Bellatrix, the head of Orion. There's B35. Yep, B35 right there. So B35 is there. And there's all this junk up in here, that's the other ones. Ignore that. I bang my head for an hour. What the heck is that? Because it's not on the charts, it's not anywhere, it's not in the sky. Almost 2,000. What the heck is that? And then I finally figured it out. It's directly opposite Bellatrix. The darn UV filter that I had on the front of the lens was causing a reflection. A bright star in the field. And you get one. So that's no longer being used. But I did do a few other tests. This is actually a region that heat photographed here called Cinder on M35. And there's actually no objects listed in it, but I want to reproduce it. That's his shot and my shot. So mine's color, of course, but still pretty much the same depth, same amount of stars, and same amount of contrast. This was in Riga, around M37. I believe this would be 36 up here, but there's a couple of dark nebulae here and here. And this shot, and again, same scale, one shot. So there's that one. Actually, there's that one and that one. And this one was quite defined in my shot. And it is in his too, but he never classified it. So he did grab everything. So that's my ongoing project now for the observatory. Beyond exoplanets and toying around is on nights when the sky agrees to put the DSLR on the piggyback and shoot wide fields. And I have 12 or 13 of the 40 odd plates done. So it's, I don't know where I'm going to go with that. My intent is to finish the Atlas, to do a replica of the Atlas, but what I do with what I've done, I don't know. I might go to a GA and put up a poster display. But beyond that, that's it. So what's next? Continue to print pretty photos, completely image the Atlas, and image exoplanets. It's with an 8-inch telescope, with a smaller than an 8-inch telescope. That blows me away. If you would have told me 20 years ago we'd be imaging exoplanets from our backyard, like, so yeah, that's it.
Not too bad for a guy who's been up since 4 o'clock Electrox time.
What is it now?
Yes.
9
None,
Yeah.
so you've been up 25 hours?
Yeah,
21.
20 hours.
well, it's really nice to see your observatory, so we know where your dark sky atlas is going to come from. You know, so we'll think about that when we see it in the future. So thanks very much.
No problem.
Are there any questions for Paul?
When you say image exoplanets, are you talking about just actually discovering them, or are you talking about actually getting an actual image?
No, when I refer to image exoplanets, I guess all it really is simply detect known ones. We're finding so many now. The Kepler mission found thousands, a few thousand at least, and TESS is now going online, and TESS is going to be just scooping them up. They don't have the capacity to follow up on all of them, so they're actually looking to amateurs to help follow up on known exoplanets. And the idea is they need amateurs with the equipment and the capabilities to finally tune the light curves over a period of cycles to, get a real good idea of what's going on with the light curve. But they're finding some of the light curves have weird things going on where I think there was just an article in Sky News this last issue showing that they found there's one exoplanet has a moon, because they're finding there's a dip and then it comes back up and then dips again and comes back up, and this is the moon coming across behind it. So they're looking for stuff like that, and they're just looking to really fine tune the curves that we have, because they get a lot from the light curve, like the size of the planet, the orbital period, and stuff like that. They just don't have the capacity to follow them all. So my intent is to do what others are doing, and that's simply get the light curves, be able to measure light curves. You could probably go looking for new ones, but that takes a lot of time. I'm watching days and days, hoping to see a little blip. Yeah. Be neat, but I think just detecting them is quite amazing right now. So neat stuff to be on the edge of.
Well, one thing that I was impressed about your observatory, what a beautiful backyard you've got there. It looks gorgeous. Is that the surrounding places there of other houses, or is it like farm?
Well, a quick shot back. I think I have a shot there. It's actually really. Should just relax. There is a shot of my neighbors in one of them.
But there's not many houses around.
No, it's fairly rural. We're about 10 minutes outside of Greenwood, Nova Scotia. Greenwood has the air base. It's our only air base in the Maritimes. But beyond the air base, there's a little mall in the town and a few places. So it's not really huge. My property is, well, the tree line on the left of the baby barn is the edge of mine, and the tree line here is mine. So width-wise, I'm about 150 feet wide. But from my road to the house is about 100 feet. The house to the shed is another 100 feet. And the property from the road goes back 1,000 feet to the pine trees on the other side of the Stillwater. So I'm just about 3.5 acres.
Wow.
So it's quite nice. So my neighbors on either side of me, I think there's one shot here. Yeah, you can see through the tree line there a bit. My neighbors' properties are all the same size, so we're spread out fairly well.
So they're not zoned for a condo development at this
Nope.
stage?
And I doubt there will be anytime soon, so.
Good.
So it's fairly nice. It's, I mean, it's considered rural, but I have a 30-minute drive to work. I work in Kentville rather than Greenwood, and I think it's 30 kilometers, 35 kilometers. Traffic on a bad day is.
But I thought you were with the Halifax.
I am, an hour and a half to downtown Halifax. So I'm away from all the lights.
Are any more questions for Paul? Well, thanks again for,
Thank you.
first of all, coming through 4 time zones. And a token of appreciation for that epic journey, we have one of our own coveted Victoria Center t-shirts for you.
Thank you.
So thanks very much, and also thanks to Chris for picking Paul up, and he's hosting him tonight. And you're off to Vancouver tomorrow. And
Yeah, I'm gonna take the ferry over tomorrow morning to the mainland, and I'll hang out there for the afternoon, and speaking in Vancouver tomorrow night. And then the next morning, I'm taking the ferry over to Sunshine Coast to see Charles, and speak to them Friday night, and then Saturday it's back to the airport, flying to Whitehorse. Get there at 5:30, speak to them Saturday night, and then Sunday supper time, I'm back to YVR and heading home. Be home at 11 a.m. Monday.
Wow.
If the weather's good.
Well, I hope your rest of your trip goes really well. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
So, just a reminder that there's tea and cookie and coffee up in the astronomy lounge. So I hope to see you up there, and we can chat some more and ask more questions of Paul. Thanks very much.